without being mayor and a businessman and doing all of his other duties, he is spread thin. I understand that. We are looking to grow the Roads and Grounds Committee. Excuse me, are you recording us?
It's a public meeting.
I'm just asking.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's fine. We decided that we would like a more hands-on person on the Roads and Grounds, and we had talked to several people about it. We put out an ad for the position also, and we decided to go with a new Roads and Grounds chairperson. And we also hired, just today is his first day, is Scott Dryback. And he is, works or lives here in the neighborhood. He's married, has 2 children. He does own his own business. He is going to be leading Roads and Grounds going forward. I think almost everybody here knows Scott.
No.
He's right behind you. Scott, can you stand up, please? Yep. So they can see you. This is Scott, and he does own Legacy Landscaping. He knows the title company and all that also. But he's got some fantastic ideas of moving forward. He spends a lot of time here in the neighborhood, and like I said, we just thought it was a really good time to change. Give Val a little more time off you can enjoy, and going forward, we don't have anything bad to say about Al. We never have, and so some of the rumors you've heard aren't true. So if there's something somebody wants to say, you stand up, you say your name, and you say the street you live on. That's all I'm asking. Please, stand up.
Pamela Shear McLeod. I live on Dunn Hill.
Thank you.
I've been here since 1990, and I just have a question. Is there any conflict of issues or conflict of interest issue with having a paid employee the chair of that committee?
I don't see how, because that's 2 separate positions. He's going to be on Roads and Grounds, and he'll have his own separate committee for Roads and Grounds, just like Al did. Okay, he had his own separate. And then there are the paid employees down at the shop, and they are separate. And he will be their supervisor, and he will get paid a part-time position because he is going to be probably doing work also and guiding and all the positions down there.
So the paid part-time position is separate from his position as chair of a committee that presumably has decision-making authority on actions taken by that committee, including suggestions for actions that might be of a personal self-interest. I'm not saying that.
But his business
I'm asking about the issue. It seems to be an obvious one.
Well, when it comes to Roads and Grounds, he is not going to be the sole person. There is a committee. We are not getting rid of Roads and Grounds. I don't know where that came from.
I don't think anyone's
The Roads and Grounds Committee will always be here. It's part of how we do business here. He's going to have people, and his committee is going to be going through what needs to be done and making the decisions. Not one person is going to be making the decisions on what's going on Roads and Grounds. Okay? And when it comes to the employees, he will be instructing the employees from what they have gleaned from what they're doing on Roads and Grounds. He will instruct the workers on Roads and Grounds on what is going to be done.
I appreciate that response. I would respectfully suggest that any position of leadership has inherently in it the potential for conflict of interest, where that person is a paid employee and is also the chairperson of a committee. And I would like to see, if you don't mind, further addressing of that. This may not be the forum for it, but that I think is a serious consideration that should be addressed.
Can I just ask you, what do you what do you consider a conflict of interest when there's a group of people that they're in working together to figure out what needs to be done in roads and grounds, and then the chairperson takes that information, goes down to the shop here and said, okay, this is what we're gonna do going forward. We need to do mulching, we need to do mowing, we need to do road repair and all that.
I would feel much more comfortable with this issue as a homeowner. For instance, if we're going to have a paid employee, let that paid employee be directed by the committee, but I do not believe they should be one and the same.
Well,
if this gentleman has the experience, that's great. Let's hire him, but let's do that through a separate, independent committee.
Well, let me just explain one thing, if you don't mind. Dick, who's here, Dick Littleton, he is on the Roads and Grounds Committee. He makes decisions along with everybody else in the group, correct? We also pay him, and he supervises the workers down here, and he's in a paid position. To me, there's really not much of a difference.
Well, I would suggest, as a last comment, that in these kinds of situations and issues, it is not only the potential for impropriety, but the appearance of impropriety. And I think we're going in a direction, there's no reason for it. There's no reason for those not to be separate functions.
Thank you.
Would you, Mrs. McLeod?
Yes.
Would you feel more comfortable with the situation if Scott had his role as the supervisor of Roads and Grounds as a paid employee, and then the president also appointed, as per the bylaws, another chair of the Roads and Grounds Committee that was not a paid employee? Would that
satisfy you?
To have co-chairs?
No,
separate.
No. He would be a separate.
Yes, if Scott, Scott has the qualifications, all that, that's great. And then to have a separate chairperson.
Yes, ma'am. I think that sounds reasonable, something we have definitely.
We can talk about that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sir?
Yes, my name is Shel Smith. I've been in this community since 1969. I've known Al Hofstadter since the early 70s. And what he's done for this community, free of charge. I don't know how we can duplicate that, but what the reason is, or what your qualifications are to correct this back.
Well, this is a board, we were 100% on board with this, and we've been talking about this for a while. I'm just, like I said, I will not take anything away from Al, but how long do you think Al can do this job forever? I mean, do you expect him to stay in this position forever? I'm sorry, but the thing is, this is a business, and we have a lot of things on our plates that need to be done, and one person cannot do all this.
Was it Al resign or was he?
Okay, Al is not a paid person.
Right.
He's a volunteer. He was not, you can't really fire.
Yes, you can.
Excuse me. Okay, we just told him that we were going in a separate position, separate direction, and that's what we chose to do. And we explained all this to him.
Well, is our board qualified to make these decisions like that?
Yes, we are.
How long have you been out here?
17 years.
Well, I'm very disappointed in this situation.
Me too.
I have a statement.
Just hold on, Rick.
All right.
This lady here. I'm letting people talk because they have a right to talk.
Oh, yeah. I'm Mary Ann. I live up on Rone Drive, and I just want to make sure every one of you, I want to look at you all, every one of you voted for this, is that correct? Did you vote for this?
I don't know if we have to give individual results.
As a board, yes.
I was told it was 100% agreement. I'm not trying to start an issue. I live in the neighborhood. I think there may be people in here based on the direction you're going that may be reevaluating if we want to stay in Briarcliff. We don't have to. So we're thinking about that very hardly. So I would like to understand the flavor of the people that represent me. So did you vote for this?
I'll
You
say
said
it was unanimous.
100%.
I wouldn't tell you who I voted for president. I would say it was unanimous. That's as far as we need to go. You know, and sadly, Bobby lost her husband while working here at the village, or working here for BPOA. And it was general consensus, we don't want anything like that to happen to Al. For his well-being.
Oh, boo, Gary. That was bad. So bad. Al could run circles around all of us. That was horrible.
My second part of this is that
And I don't want anything to happen to him.
I understand what you're saying. Why would you bring that up?
To my dead husband is ridiculous.
I know.
Yeah.
It's just
Ridiculous.
I was making.
I don't care what you were making. You should not have said that.
That is no
Being a
answer.
widow, okay, all right.
Well, and the second part, I'm just curious. So, not this year probably, but next year, are you comfortable saying that this will not impact our homeowners association fees?
By absolutely no. That is not gonna change. Nothing is changing on that.
And-
And I don't know
and-
where that came out either. We're not raising rates. I don't see why we need to raise rates.
Well, I think it would be assumption if you put on a paid employee. That
No,
would be a
because
logical
there's other
assumption.
monies that have been spent that we can now do and we don't have to hire out. Because there were hired out people to work in roads and grounds. Now, we're gonna be able to do our own work and we're not gonna be having to spend thousands of dollars on outside sources. We are now sourcing it from us, our workers.
You have to.
My
I mean,
final
your
question
roads.
is that this feels like, I'm not involved up here a lot, so I own that, but the one thing is, it feels like there's a sincere lack of transparency, and I personally think that most of us live here because there's this feeling that there's craziness going on in the world, and we get a little piece of sanity here, and I feel like that little piece of sanity has been removed from me. So I just want to say that. It feels like there's an undercurrent here that I
I'd
don't
like to just say,
understand.
one person does not do this job, a small army does.
Is there one
And
person,
that's true. That's very true.
is there one person at that table that voted against this? All 10, I cannot believe.
No,
Nine.
it was unanimous.
Let me address this. My name is Katie Van. I have not lived here since 1969. I've lived here almost 2 years. In that time, however, I walk these roads and these trails all the time, and I would challenge anyone to question my appreciation that I've shown to roads and grounds over the time that I've lived here. I am up in the weeds with these guys, thanking them, making presents for them, thank you cards, and I've even expressed to Al last year that it might make sense to start thinking about how to transition all the work that they do to a dedicated staff. And the reason for that is not because Al's doing a bad job or that Dick Littleton, you can ask him, he knows that I appreciate the work that they do and that I love them. So this is nothing about, get rid of these.
The
Okay.
question was about the vote.
Yes, I'm getting to that, but I'd like to give you some context, okay?
But you're building me a watch in the background. I just want to know
All
what
right,
time it is.
so just a second. Were there concerns and objections to the manner in which this was rolled out and the timing, perhaps?
No.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yes. But
it was horrible.
the general idea that we need to transition to a dedicated staff that has certain kinds of accountabilities to the board that a volunteer and even Al might not. That is something that I agree with.
Okay, that's all I need to hear.
And the reason is this body is audited, and there's a huge budget that goes on, and there are there is a need for records to be kept, for processing. There is no.
What I want to know is, what are you paying this man that already has a business in? That
Yeah.
makes no sense at all.
Well, I was trying to answer you about my vote.
You're telling me everything I want to hear. I want to hear my direct question. Now, you hired somebody that already has a business in here. What are you paying them?
We're paying him a part-time salary.
What is it?
What is it?
That works here too.
What's that?
Isn't there landscaping that he does in our? didn't
Yeah,
we
but
do our
that's,
landscaping for that?
that is,
But that would be a conflict of interest.
It is.
Right.
okay, excuse me, a minute, please.
I think I know why I don't come to these meetings. So this is ridiculous. I don't see anybody up there qualified.
Okay, if you wanna know his salary is $28,000 a year is all we're paying.
Part-time?
And Al did it for free, but excuse me, as a volunteer, he can do and come as
I
he
don't need more
please.
answers.
Well,
I have a question to that.
go ahead.
I'm Holly Corbin. I live on East Summit. I've lived in Brooklyn since 2004. My husband served on the board years ago. I thank you all for serving. I'm not here to attack you. And I can even listen to the reasons. I can even understand why you feel the need to transition. I know there's a lot of things we don't know that you do, that you talk about and you address. I think the issue is, Katie mentioned something about a transition, where this doesn't feel like a transition. Right. This feels very abrupt, and it feels like Al has been booted to the curb, and the locks change and don't come back here, and it feels rather personal.
Yes.
And the way it was handled that we don't like. And what I have noticed in the past few years living here that has changed is that volunteers are treated so very poorly.
Yep.
And nobody wants to do it anymore. And so if you can address why he was just, we don't need your help, can you be part of this transition, maybe why it wasn't brought up in meetings that y'all, this is something that needs to be addressed because of the growth of Briarcliff and because it's becoming a bigger job. If you can speak to that.
Well, I'm going to use an analogy, and I'm sure it'll tick some people off. And we've talked about this for a while as a board, about what we want to do going forward, and the changes that we'd like to see in Briarcliff. And let me just ask you this: you've worked for a living, correct? Okay. Have you ever lost your position or asked to step down from your position and they let you know a few weeks ahead of time, say, by the way, we're going to let you go. We're going to, no.
I always got notice.
Can I finish?
That
Can I
doesn't solve the
finish?
problem, yeah.
To my point.
Can I?
To my
Listen.
point, it's a volunteer, and again, what I had said is you don't treat volunteers like that. You don't just pick them out, which is what you're verifying, that you did just pick them out because that's just the way life goes. And essentially, you're saying, was he not doing a good job? I mean, you're contradicting yourself because one of the posts you made comments you made in effect to the original, when we all found out about this, you said that we were not going to be paying someone to run roads and grounds, but then 2 days later you posted that yes, we were going to be paying somebody. So we're just, yes, you did. It was under you. You said we weren't going to be paying. That was false information, and Regina apologized. And then you said, yes.
No, we were not going to be paying a professional team. See, that was the impression that we were going to hire Legacy, and that we were going to hire Legacy.
Who has less knowledge about what we're doing, Al has more knowledge about all.
Excuse me, please don't talk out of turn, please. I appreciate that. Okay, but she's got to take notes, and we want to keep accurate.
I'd like to take a turn. My name is Ray Rosenberg, 305 Dunhill, past vice president of this board. I was elected on the board with you to get rid of a corrupt board that got us involved in a lawsuit that cost us $300,000. You don't want to hear it, but if you forget history, you're going to repeat it. Now, once we got on the board, I nominated you to be president because I thought you were a reasonable person. And the first thing you did, you ran Gene Dowdy out of here.
Whoa, where did you get that?
Stepped down as treasurer.
Okay,
Okay,
Ray,
I said,
you
Let him finish.
Ray, excuse me, Ray.
Do that more for this community than everybody else combined. And now you're trying to do it for Al. Al runs this road and grounds crew better than anybody else could for $100,000 a year. And he does it for free.
Right.
And there is a reason why you're getting him off the board, and it's not out with the old and with the new, because you don't fix something that's not broken.
Right.
Al knows this community. Now, I've had my disagreements with him over the year, but nobody runs the road and grounds better than Al can ever do it. He's been doing it for a long time for free. So that's an extra 30 grand a year you want to blow to bring some stranger in with no qualifications to take over a position that was done for free.
Excuse me, Ray, I need to answer you something. The reason Gene has been
I was on the board. I was there.
You haven't been there the last couple of years.
I was on the board when you ran her off.
Ray, she couldn't. She has Alzheimer's and she's in a nursing home and she could not.
Well, no, you know, well,
You
you should.
talk to Ruth here. She's very close. She knew what happened and she wasn't able to do the treasurer's report. Trust me, and that's why she stayed on this board until this last year, and she couldn't run. Period. She was here till last April.
Treasurer, and you got her out of there.
She couldn't do the job, unfortunately. We love Jean. Trust me.
I think you got it.
Oh my God. Okay, that's
Can we I did what I was supposed to do.
Ray,
I don't like going to these meetings because I got better things to do.
Okay, if you can get Ray to be quiet.
Ray, hold on. I just wanted to know, I didn't get an answer to my question about why it was so abrupt and why there wasn't a transition.
Yes.
And it seems like that would be.
What do you consider a transition? Because I will tell you one thing.
Wait, you asked her a question.
I'm explaining to her.
Well, you asked the question. What would you consider a transition? Answer the question.
Well, I would consider the person who's been doing it for so long and who knows so much about that particular position would be closely involved with the person who's taking over that position. And so it would be smooth, and that, to me, I think most people would agree, whether you like Al doing it or not, or whether you agree with the reasons y'all stated, that it would have been best for Briarcliff for that to happen and not to just boot a long-time servant of our community to her. So why was the decision made so abruptly?
Yeah,
And it wasn't even brought up in a meeting before this or anything.
Like I explained
so
to you.
just why was it so sudden?
I do want to speak up as a board member, and I will admit that I did vote for this change, but looking back on everything that's happened and all the social media public posts before an announcement was made, I have a regret that we did not handle this a different way.
Thank you.
Having Scott into his new position and see how that kind of panned out. Okay?
This is the core issue, how this was handled.
She's been waiting a long
I have my
time.
hand up.
Yes,
So
you have it now. Your name, please?
Sarah Jane Vanessa, and at the University of Texas, I'm Sarah Jane Renborg, and I teach graduate courses in volunteer management and in board governance. On a graduate level.
Speak louder, please.
Okay, so I teach courses in volunteer management and board governance at a graduate level at the University of Texas, and I'm the only person who does that. Number one, you can have a volunteer manage a budget of any size, and it is legal. So this idea that the budget was too large is not accurate. You're running an organization as a volunteer with a budget of $812,000. So that is not a reason that you can let somebody go. You are governed by bylaws, and you should have bylaws that speak to the length of time somebody chairs a committee. And
No, we don't. There is nothing there.
But
Let her finish.
that's correct. You don't. But you should have. And if you would like to see a turnover in committee membership, it should have been handled through your bylaws process. I would recommend that you go back and rescind this decision and create bylaws that facilitate the kinds of change that yes, you can change because you're the one who made the decision.
No. Okay, I think a lot of people don't understand how the decision is made. Excuse me, ma'am. But if you, did you read our bylaws?
I have not read all of your bylaws.
When it comes to the chair people, do you know who appoints them?
You probably do.
The president does.
Yes. Okay,
and they can also ask them to step down. Now, when it comes to their chair, the chair, and then their committee, the chairperson has a committee, and we all agree on that.
And
it's a volunteer position.
That's correct.
Well, not any longer.
We don't have to follow, any.
So you can get rid of somebody, and you've been wanting to get rid of Al for a long time, and not even getting it done.
But you can change your bylaws, and you can change your bylaws.
Okay.
And you can change your bylaws without needing to reincorporate with the state.
It takes a big vote. It takes 50.1% of all the voters here in the neighborhood.
Fine.
Okay. Yeah. Send it out. Yeah.
And change them. Well, you've proven my point.
They did that before, and then they tried to do it after again, and
that's not the issue. The issue is there is a process, and you have not followed the process. And so often issues are about process as much as product. Number two, you have made a decision for Al independent of asking him about his health or his desire on the way he spends his time. Those are his prerogative to make those decisions.
He is a volunteer, not a paid position.
And
we have the right to ask a chairperson to step down and we replace them. That's all there is to that. I'm sorry, that is what
you
we're
then
doing.
need to have a reason, and you need to be public about it.
We do not have to have a reason. Really, there is no.
Excuse me. It is an at-will. It is an at-will employment state.
That's not necessary. You don't have to ask Al that question.
There's a lot of things you guys would like to know. We're not going to discuss it here.
I'd like to hear from Al Huffman.
No. Wait, this lady's talking.
Okay.
It is an at-will employment state, but that does not mean that has to be followed relative to volunteers.
He's not an employee.
I didn't say that. You didn't listen to me.
He didn't get fired. We asked him to step down. There's a big difference.
And may I make one other point before I cede the floor? I think that if you have somebody who's in the landscaping business, I know nothing about Scott whatsoever, so I know nothing about his integrity, his ability. I do think that he should send in a resume that the entire community has the opportunity to see that identifies exactly what his expertise is.
Well, people out here as his customers.
Yes, that is not what I asked. I said a resume that demonstrates his ability in roads and ground management, his roads, which is very different than landscaping.
Yes.
And I also believe that there should be a very clear written contract that indicates he cannot use his own company or employ any of his employees for the business.
Ma'am, I just want to follow up on this idea because it's a process question and I respect your opinion. Do you think we should have a rigorous process like this for all employees of both the city and the BPOA where everybody gets to agree on their resumes?
I think you need to have a process in place, and there appears not to be a process. And you could have amended your bylaws to change the process for how you deal with committee members and chairs and their length of tenure in those positions and the ways in which they rotate. That would have then removed this from a personal decision to a professional one. Exactly. And the behavior that is here is not professional. And it is being demonstrated by volunteers who you're accusing only paid people of being professional. That is not accurate.
Okay, all right.
You're determining that all of us are not honest then.
I didn't say that.
That's not what she said.
I used the word, you really are giving them a hard time. I used the word professional.
I've been in the business for a long time. I've been professional for a long time.
But
I've never had anybody come up and tell me, you're unprofessional.
Unprofessional would be the word.
Same thing. You want to correct the words? Fine. But the point is, each one of these people here have a background and an ability to participate. We know the community. I've been here now about 3.5 years. I've been on the board here for over 2 years. I've watched the process going through, and I've seen careful decisions made, and not without finding out what the background was first and what the benefits are of change or not changed. And this has been the process all the way down the line of carefully making decisions based on the need and based on the capabilities. That's what this board does.
What was your profession?
I was a real estate broker. I've also been a minister for over 20 years.
My point, however,
My
point is that professional is not connected to salary or no salary. You can either be professional in your behavior or unprofessional in your behavior.
And you're calling everybody here unprofessional.
No, she's not.
I did not. I simply say it is not related to salary.
Okay, can we,
You're next.
thank
The
you.
gentleman with the glasses, you're next. You've been having your hand up for a while.
I want to say, I'm Doug Myers, I live on Drive Cliff, I've been here for 3 years. I hear all that stuff, I know Al, I've said some things that's great. Everybody in this room voted for the board. The decision's been made, if you don't like it, then next time you don't get that done.
Amen.
Then you vote off.
I didn't vote for any of
And all
them.
you're doing is complaining about the decisions that's been made, it's water under the bridge, nobody likes it, or they don't like it, everybody's gonna have an opinion. Hold on. Now, if you want to talk Scott, all I would say is then put parameters out there versus and put an RFP for any job above X amount of dollars.
That's already in
and
place.
make that done. It's that easy. So that you think about conflict of interest, that's where this started and became a bitch session about what happened in the past. Put a process in place that if you're questioning the man's integrity, then there's an RFP and the board controls it. We'd all elected it.
I didn't.
So
I didn't elect any of them.
They still voted for the majority of those people were elected by the people sitting in these chairs.
Amen.
Can we hear from Al, please? I'd love to hear.
Gina was next.
Gina.
Gina was next.
Please.
They're doing an awful lot of talking for you.
Hi, Gina Brown. I live on Ryan Drive since, I guess we're telling everybody, 2006. I guess one of my questions was, I've heard a few times that you guys are looking to go in a different direction. Can you explain what that different direction is from what Al was currently doing?
Yeah.
Okay, we are looking at better maintenance of the roads and grounds when it comes to the grounds. Things aren't getting done. Unfortunately, he's hired gentlemen, which I will not say anything bad about Dick or Alvin and all that, but they don't work full time. Dick works 4 hours a day. Alvin works 4 or 6 hours a day, and that's it. That's it. And then it's not every day. If it rains,